Okay, now let's learn a little bit more about intercepts. Okay, so the X intercept, so that is a point where the graph crosses the y-axis. Okay, so the y-axis, we draw our rectangular coordinate system here. Here's the y-axis and here's the x-axis. Okay, so the x-axis is always horizontal. So if I have a graph that crosses the x-axis, so say this right here, then at this point right here, that point right there where the graph crosses the x-axis, that is the x-intercept. So notice at that little point right there, if we're on the x-axis, that means we are at y is equal to 0. Okay, because we have not gone up or down from the x-axis. So y is always going to be 0 when we have an x-intercept. Okay, so if you're going to find the x-intercept, what you're going to do is you're going to have an equation, and then wherever you see y, replace the y with the 0, and then solve for x. Okay, now your y-intercepts, so let's get rid of that. Say we had a graph that crossed right here. Okay, so your y-intercept is always horizontal, and right there at that point. So the point where the graph crosses the y-axis, so at that point right there, you have a y-intercept. Okay, well notice what x is going to be. So we haven't gone to the left or to the right. So we haven't moved in terms of x values. So x is going to be 0. Okay, so when you are trying to find the y-intercept, when you have your equation, you're going to find the x and you're going to replace that with 0, and then you're going to solve for y. Okay, so looking at this graph right here, we have two intercepts. We have an x-intercept and we have a y-intercept. So this one right here, this is our x-intercept since the graph has crossed the x-axis. And our x-intercept is -5, 0. Notice how we've gone to the left 5. So for the first value in that ordered pair is going to be -5. And notice how y is 0. Okay, because anytime we cross the x-axis, y is going to be 0. Y is 0 all over the x-axis. And x is 0 all over the y-axis. Okay, and here, where the graph crosses the y-axis, we have a y-intercept. Okay, so that point is 0, 3. Notice how x is 0 because we're at a y-intercept, and we've gone up 3 on the y-axis, so your y-intercept is 0, 3. Okay, well now let's find the intercepts for the equation. 3y is equal to -2x plus 6. So if I'm going to find the x-intercept first, well that means that y is 0, because an x-intercept is a graph that crosses at the x-axis, and all over the x-axis y is 0. So I'm going to find my y in this equation, okay, right there, and I'm going to replace it with 0. So 3 times 0 minus 2x plus 6. Okay, that goes away, so 0 is equal to -2x plus 6. I'm going to move that 6 over. Actually, I think I'll move the 2x over, get rid of that negative. Okay, so 2x is equal to 6. Come up here. Okay, so we are going to divide by 2 to get x all by itself. Okay, 3. So our x-intercept is x is equal to 3. So to write our ordered pair, we've got y is equal to 0, and we've got x is equal to 3. So all we have to do is 3, 0, and that is our x-intercept. Okay, to find our y-intercept, x is going to be 0 because the y-intercept crosses the y-axis, and all over the y-axis x is equal to 0. So I'm going to take my function, or my my equation, find the x and replace it with 0. So negative 2 times 0 plus 6. Okay, that goes away. So that'd be 0 plus 6. So that'd just be 6. Divide both sides by 3. So y is equal to 2. Okay, well, we've got x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 2. Okay, so our order pair is 0, comma, 2. Okay, so there's our nice and neat calculations right here. So notice we've got y is 0, x is 3, and we come over to our graph over here. So this was the x-intercept, so it should be crossing the x-axis. Okay, so right there. There is 3, comma 0. And then for the y-intercept, x is 0 and y is 2, like we found in the previous slide. Okay, so the y-intercept crosses the y-axis, and then there's our point right there, 0, comma 2. Notice that this one's crossing the y-axis. That's the y-intercept. So y-intercept. This right here is crossing the x-axis, so it is the x-intercept. Okay, now let's find the intercept for this equation here. So same thing, we are going to, we'll solve for the x-intercept first. That means y is equal to 0. Okay, so y is equal to x minus 3 over 2. So 0 is equal to x minus 3 over 2. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that 2 in the denominator. That cancels out. 2 times 0 is 0. X minus 3. I'm going to move that 3 over to get x all by itself. So x is equal to 3. Okay, so my ordered pair for the x-intercept is going to be 3, comma 0. Okay, so for the y-intercept, x is going to be 0. Okay, so y is equal to x minus 3 over 2. Okay, find your x and replace it with 0. So 0 minus 3 over 2. So that is negative 3/2. Okay, so I've got my order pair is going to be 0, comma, negative 3 over 2. Okay, so here's a nice and neat calculations. So the x-intercept we said was, the order pair was 3, comma 0. And the order pair for the y-intercept was 0, comma, negative 3 over 2. Okay, so let's look at the x-intercept, which crosses over the x-axis. So right there, and there's our point, 3, comma 0. That is the x-intercept. Okay, and then this point right here, it's crossing the y-axis, so it is the y-intercept. And notice that is 0, comma, negative 3 over 2. And that is our y-intercept.